TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrives in Washington ahead of his anticipated meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. Israeli Defense Minister Yisrael Katz warns Beirut and the Iranian-proxy Hezbollah over an uptick of UAV launches toward Israel. The Israeli Defense Ministry Director General named next IDF Chief of General Staff. Jerusalem remains committed to its war objectives versus the Islamist Hamas and its terror affiliates in the Gaza Strip, alongside its unyielding commitment to return all of the hostages who remain in Hamas captivity. As part of the first phase of the U.S. brokered deal, which was spearheaded by both Qatar and Egypt, 3 additional hostages were freed on Saturday morning, to include dual Israeli citizens who also hold American and French nationality respectively.
484 days after October the 7th, Ofer Calderon, Kit Siegel, and Yarden Bibas have returned to Israel. At Sheba and Ichilov medical centers, the returnees are undergoing initial medical evaluation. They have been reunited with their families and friends. This is an exciting day for all of us, after so many days in a difficult and complex reality. We must all remember that it is an emotionally and medically challenging event for those who returned, their families, and the families of all the captives and the people in Israel and abroad. We are asking the public to avoid spreading rumors regarding the returnees and captives and to stay informed only by official sources. And additionally, we ask to respect the privacy of those who returned.
It is important to note that the wife and 2 little children of 2 and 5 of the freed Yarden Bibas, who also hold German nationality, remain in Hamas captivity to date, despite being slated for release in the first phase of the deal. In contrast, dual Israeli-American national Keith Siegel was reunited with his wife, who was released in a previous hostage release deal after 51 days in Hamas captivity. In addition to Ofer Calderon, whose 2 out of 4 children were also taken hostage by Hamas and then freed in a previous hostage release deal, were seemingly overjoyed when united with their father.
Ofer is home. After 484 days in hell, we had the privilege to hug him again. We want to say thank you for the French government, President Macron, Anne-Claire Legendre, and Paul Solier, of all the help that they gave us. Thank you for the President Trump and his team that they pushed to the deal that brought us Ofer back. We have finished this struggling about Ofer's life. Is here. Now we are joining to the struggling of bringing everyone back until the last hostage. We are not going to stop.
Meanwhile, in Tel Aviv, thousands of Israelis gathered to demonstrate near the Israeli Defense Ministry's headquarters, calling for the release of the remaining 79 hostages in Hamas captivity.
My son, Nimrod Cohen, is scheduled to be released from captivity in Gaza only in phase 2 of the deal. We, the families waiting for our loved ones to be released in the next phases, are very concerned. We turn and address U.S. President Donald Trump. Mr. President, sir, we are deeply concerned that the extremists in the coalition and Netanyahu are attempting to sabotage the deal.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrived in Washington early this morning ahead of his highly anticipated meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump, which is scheduled for tomorrow. Prior to his departure from Tel Aviv International Airport, the Israeli premier stressed the importance of his expected meeting.
I'm leaving for a very important meeting with President Trump in Washington. The fact that this would be President Trump's first meeting with a foreign leader since his inauguration is telling. I think it's a testimony to the strength of the Israeli-American alliance. It's also a testimony to the strength of our personal friendship. That friendship and that cooperation has already yielded important results for Israel in the Middle East, including the historic Abraham Accords that President Trump led and which brought 4 historic peace treaties between Israel and its Arab neighbors. In this meeting, we'll deal with important issues, critical issues facing Israel and our region, a victory over Hamas, achieving the release of all our hostages, and dealing with the Iranian terror axis and all its components, an axis that threatens the peace of Israel, the Middle East, and the entire world.
While Jerusalem's decision-making during the war against Iran and its multiple proxies brought about a paradigm shift to the entire composition of the Middle East, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu insisted that deepening the cooperation with President Donald Trump will further enhance the tectonic shifts that occurred throughout the volatile region.
The decisions we made in the war have already changed the face of the Middle East. Our decisions and the courage of our soldiers have redrawn the map. But I believe that working closely with President Trump, we can redraw it even further and for the better. I believe that we can strengthen security, broaden the circle of peace, and achieve a remarkable era of peace through strength. Thank you very much.
U.S. President Donald Trump commented last night on Prime Minister Netanyahu's visit to Washington. Speaking after disembarking from his plane in the American capital, President Trump said, quote, "The discussions on the Middle East with Israel and various and sundry other countries are progressing. Bibi Netanyahu is coming on Tuesday, and I think we have some very big meetings scheduled." Prime Minister Netanyahu is expected to meet with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and other administration officials in the course of his visit to Washington, as well as members of the House and the Senate and the incoming American ambassador to Israel, namely Mike Huckabee. However, today, Prime Minister Netanyahu is scheduled to meet with Trump's Mideast envoys, namely Steve Witkoff, to discuss the resumption of negotiations vis-à-vis Phase 2 of the hostage release agreement between Israel and the internationally designated terror group Hamas. It is important to highlight that if the negotiations fail, President Trump had pledged orally to Prime Minister Netanyahu that he would not view a resumption of the war versus Hamas as a violation of the agreement. Meanwhile, with regard to Lebanon, an uptick in attempted launches by Hezbollah of unmanned aerial vehicles toward Israeli territory have been recorded in recent days, with at least 2 UAVs intercepted by Israel's multi-tier aerial defense array. Consequently, during a visit to IDF positions in southern Lebanon, Israeli Defense Minister Yisrael Katz leveled a threat to Hezbollah and the Lebanese leadership in Beirut that Jerusalem will relaunch its offensive against the Iranian proxy if the UAV launches do not come to an immediate halt.
In recent days, we have seen attempts to launch UAVs towards the state of Israel. I want to send a clear message from here to Hezbollah and the Lebanese government. Israel will not accept the launching of UAVs from Lebanon. We will not allow a return to the reality of October 7th. We will thwart threats and respond with full force. Either there will be no drones or there will be no Hezbollah. I suggest that the successor of Nasrallah not mistake Israel's determination as his predecessors did, lest he pay a very heavy price.
The remarks by Jerusalem's top defense official were made ahead of a speech by Hezbollah Secretary General Naim Qassem, who announced that his 2 predecessors, namely Hassan Nasrallah and Hashem Safiuddin, will be unearthed and reburied in a grand funeral procession scheduled to take place on February the 23rd. In other news, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yisrael Katz announced that the IDF's 24th Chief of General Staff will be the Defense Ministry's outgoing Director General, namely Major General in Reserve Eyal Zamir. General Zamir, who is 59 years of age, began his military career in the Armored Corps and filled several senior positions, including Deputy Chief of General Staff, Commander of the IDF's Southern Command, and Military Secretary to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He is set to assume his post as the IDF top officer next month, subject to the approval of the Security Cabinet and the Advisory Committee for the appointment of senior officials in service of the state. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. It is important to highlight that TV7 Israel is a non-profit ministry, with all of our productions exclusively reliant on the generosity of our viewers. Therefore, if you're blessed by the content of our programs, I would like to encourage you to support TV7 Israel with a donation. You can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, I'd like to also ask, as ever, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hessen, wishing you a Shavua Mevorach, and God willing, we will see you during our next update. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.